the strange request in the field. The twin suns were setting behind the purple hills when Rylan reached the edge of the alien village. His boots sank into soft soil as he stepped onto the farmland. The sky was calm now, but the fields told another story. Broken fences, crushed crops, and tracks from beasts that had stormed through just days ago. He had followed the call for help. Someone on this quiet planet had sent a signal. Food was running low, predators were getting braver, and the villagers were too weak to fight. Rylan, a human hunter from the outer colonies, had seen too many places like this. But he had never expected what came next. A young alien woman stood alone in the field, pulling weeds by hand. She was tall and slim, with long, pale hair tied behind, her head and soft gray skin that shimmered faintly in the fading light. Her clothes were worn but clean. When she saw him, she froze. He gave a small wave. "I'm Rylan. You called for help?" She looked at him for a moment, then nodded. "Yes, we need protection." "I can help with that," he said, dropping his pack. "Where are the others?" "They are afraid. Most stay hidden after dark. But I stayed. I wanted to see you with my own eyes." Her voice was quiet, like the wind moving through dry grass. As the evening grew darker, she led him to a small hut on the edge of the field. Inside, the air smelled of herbs and soil. A small fire crackled in the center. She handed him a cup of warm root tea and sat across from him. "What's your name?" Rylan asked. "Colleen," she said. "My family has farmed this land for many generations, but now the soil is tired. The beasts come more often. And our children?" She hesitated, lowering her eyes. "Our children are born weak." Rylan listened. He had heard similar stories on other planets, places where alien bloodlines were fading, where life was hanging on by a thread. But Colleen wasn't just telling him a sad tale. There was something in her tone, something else. After a long pause, she stood up and walked to him. Her hands trembled as she reached out and touched his arm. Her fingers ran across the muscle on his bicep. They lingered there, gently. "Your body is strong," she whispered. Rylan frowned. Thank you," but then she said something that froze him in place. "Give me a strong child human, please." He stared at her, unsure if he had heard her correctly. "What did you say?" She didn't look away. Her voice didn't shake. "I want your strength, your genes. Our people are fading. We need children who can survive. The old stories say humans carry the fire of survival in their blood. I want that for my line." Rylan stood up slowly, stepping back. "Look, I didn't come here for that." Colleen didn't move. "I know. I waited to see you first. I needed to know if the stories were true." "What stories?" "About human warriors, about their hearts, about how one human gave his strength to our ancestors long ago. The bond was sacred. We called their children Hopeborn." Rylan rubbed his face. This was insane. He had faced beasts, pirates, even warlords, but never had anyone asked him to father a child on the first day. And certainly not like this. "Colleen, I'm not saying no, I just need time to think." She nodded. "I understand. Stay a few days. Help the village. See with your own eyes why we need you." He agreed to stay, not because he believed in ancient stories, but because something in her eyes wouldn't let him walk away. That night, as he lay in a small bed near the window, he couldn't sleep. Outside, the wind carried strange sounds across the fields. Not just beasts, but footsteps and whispers. Someone was watching the hut. Rylan slowly reached for his knife and moved to the window. In the distance, a tall shape stood near the crops. It wasn't Colleen. It disappeared into the mist before he could get a better look. He didn't know it yet, but Colleen wasn't the only one who wanted him. And in this quiet farming village, old bloodlines were waking. A bond beyond soil and stars. Rylan woke before the suns rose. The sky was still dark, painted with deep purple clouds and glowing stars. The soft sounds of a farming village starting to wake could be heard. Tools being lifted, small fires crackling, voices whispering, in low tones. He sat up slowly, his muscles sore from the night before. It wasn't just the hard bed. It was the weight of Colleen's request. Her words still echoed in his head. Give me a strong child, human. No one had ever asked him that before. Not in such a quiet, desperate, honest way. He stepped outside, where the air was cool and sharp. Across the field he saw Colleen walking toward him with a small basket. Her steps were slow, careful, and silent. Good morning, she said softly. Morning, he replied, looking around. No sign of whoever was outside last night, but I know someone was watching. She looked down. They were probably one of the others. Others? Others who want what I want, she said. But not all will ask nicely. Before he could answer, a group of small alien children ran up to him. They had smooth gray skin like Colleen, with wide golden eyes. They had never seen a human before, not in person. They laughed and poked at his arms, amazed by the thickness of his muscles and the hair on his arms. One of the smallest ones touched his wrist. And suddenly, a strange glow spread across his skin. Rylan pulled back, startled. A symbol had appeared, on his arm glowing faint red before fading into nothing. He looked at Colleen. She was pale, her lips parted in shock. What was that? You're marked, she whispered. Marked for what? Colleen stepped closer and pulled back part of her dress at the waist. The same symbol was there, faint and faded but clearly the same shape. A curling spiral that almost looked like a seed, or a flame. This only appears when the blood is a match, she said. It hasn't happened in my village for over 2 generations. Rylan's voice dropped. You're telling me I'm biologically compatible with your people? Not just compatible, she said. Chosen. He took a step back. This was bigger than he expected. This wasn't just about some village needing strong children. It was something older. Something sacred. Colleen, what happens now? Before she could answer, a low voice came from behind them. He's not yours yet. They turned. Standing there was a taller alien woman with sharp features and a long blade strapped to her back. Her body was covered in scars and her eyes burned with challenge. Who are you? Rylan asked, hand slowly moving to his sidearm. I'm Kara, she said, and if he is marked, then he belongs to all of us. Colleen stepped forward. No. The bond chose me. Then prove it, Kara growled. By the rights of soil and strength. The villagers began to gather. Old whispers filled the air. Rylan stood in the middle of it all, confused and uneasy. What's the right of soil and strength, he asked. A test, Colleen said, of mind, heart, and power. It's how our people used to choose the bearer of the bond. No one's done it in years, Kara smirked. Then let's wake up the old blood. Rylan didn't want to be a prize. He wasn't some relic to be fought over, but he could see the fire in Colleen's eyes. She didn't want him for power. She wanted him because she believed in something bigger, something deeper. The next morning, the rites began. The first test was silence, walking barefoot across the wild roots without making a sound. Colleen passed with ease, her steps like wind. Kara stumbled once, hissing in frustration. The second was pain, enduring the sting of thorn spiders without flinching. Both women held firm, but Rylan saw the way Colleen bled in silence. Her eyes locked on him the entire time. The last was truth, speaking your reason before the village flame. Kara stepped forward and said, He will give us warriors. He will give us strength. Our blood is fading. We need him. Colleen stood with trembling hands. Her voice was soft but clear. I want him because he helped us without asking for anything, because he listens. Because he didn't run away when he saw our pain. And because the bond chose him and me. There was silence. Then a slow hum from the village elder. The flame at the center flared, and Rylan's mark glowed again. He was bonded, but before anyone could celebrate, a scream rang out from the crops. Rylan turned fast, weapon drawn. In the distance, something massive was moving through the fields, tall, fast, and loud. Colleen ran to him. "They're here." "Who?" She looked up at him with wide eyes. "Outsiders. They want your blood too, but they won't ask like I did." Rylan clenched his fists. Now he understood. This wasn't just about one child. It was about legacy, war, power, and he was in the middle of it. He looked at Colleen, her blood running down her arm, the faint bond mark glowing like a small sun. "Stay close," he said. She nodded, and together they turned toward the danger, united not by desire but by something deeper, a bond beyond soil and stars. The alien rival who wants his seed-dark clouds rolled in over the hills as Rylan sharpened his blade. The skies over the alien village had changed. The air smelled like a coming storm, not just of weather but of something heavier, something violent. Since the bond mark appeared on his arm, things hadn't been the same. Villagers watched him with wide eyes. Whispers followed him wherever he walked. Some spoke in wonder, others in warning, and somewhere in the fields eyes were still watching. Colleen stayed close, her presence quiet but steady. She guided him through the farmland, showed him the old defenses, taught him how her people used to fight before they began to fade. But something had shifted inside her too. She was nervous now, always glancing over her shoulder. "They don't all support the bond," she whispered one night as they sat near the fire. "Some believe I don't deserve it." Rylan looked at her. "Because you're a farmer?" "Because I'm not a warrior," she replied. "But they forget. Soil and blood are both sacred." Before he could speak, the ground trembled. Then came the sound of heavy boots. Kira had returned. She stepped into the firelight like a blade drawn from a sheath. Her body was lean and scarred, her eyes sharp and full of hunger. She had the build of a fighter, and a voice that cut like stone. "Get away from him," she said to Colleen. Rylan stood up. "Kira, this bond wasn't a game." She stared at him with a twisted smile. "Oh, it's not. It's survival. Do you know how many females would give everything to carry your seed? And you choose her?" "The bond chose," Rylan said. "Then break it," she growled. "Choose again. Choose strength." Rylan's hand drifted toward his weapon, but Colleen placed her fingers on his. "Don't," she whispered. "She doesn't want to fight you. She wants to fight me." Kira stepped forward, eyes glowing. "Challenge me, Colleen, by fire and blood." The crowd that had gathered gasped. The rite of fire and blood was ancient, older than memory. Few ever invoked it because few ever survived it. Colleen took a slow breath, then nodded. "I accept." The duel was set at dawn. That night, Rylan couldn't sleep. He paced the edge of the crops, the wind tugging at his coat. He didn't want Colleen to fight. She wasn't built for combat. Her strength was in her care, her kindness, but still, she had chosen to fight for him. As the suns rose, the villagers gathered around the ritual circle. The fire in the center burned high. Weapons were forbidden. Only fists, feet, and spirit. Kira entered with confidence. Her muscles coiled like a beast ready to strike. Colleen walked in quietly. She wore no armor, only a simple cloth robe, tied at the waist with twine, but there was no fear in her eyes. "I don't want to hurt you," Colleen said. "Then you've already lost," Kira replied, and rushed forward. The fight began. Kira moved fast, slamming into Colleen with the strength of a beast. Colleen rolled, dodged, got back on her feet. She didn't fight with force. She fought with flow. Every time Kira lunged, Colleen redirected her. Every time Kira struck, Colleen absorbed it. But then Kira landed a blow, a deep punch to Colleen's side. Colleen fell coughing, blood on her lips. "Stay down," Kira growled. "You were never worthy." But Colleen pushed up with shaking arms. Her voice was hoarse but strong. "I don't need to be a warrior. I just need to love what I protect." The words echoed across the circle, and then she moved, not to attack, but to disarm. She wrapped her arms around Kira in a sudden embrace. For a moment, there was silence. Kira's eyes widened. This was not combat. This was connection. Then, as If a weight lifted, Kara dropped to her knees. Not in defeat, but in understanding. You would have died for him, she whispered. I would have died for you too, Colleen said. The flame in the circle burst upward, taller than ever before. It recognized not just victory, but unity. Both bond marks on Colleen and Rylan glowed, and something new appeared on Kara's chest, a faint mark of peace. After the duel, as villagers helped Kara up, Rylan rushed to Colleen. She was bruised, bleeding, but smiling. You didn't have to do that, he said. Yes, I did, she replied, because the bond isn't just about blood, it's about choice. And now, everyone saw mine. But even as they embraced, a cold wind blew across the village. A message had arrived, carved into wood and thrown at their gates. He belongs to the Empire now. Resist and you all burn. Rylan stared at the message. He could see the symbol etched into it. He had seen it once before, during the war, and now it was back. But this time, he wasn't running. This time, he had something worth staying for. When the night creatures came, a thick fog rolled into the valley as the twin suns sank behind the jagged cliffs. The village, normally quiet at night, was restless. Shadows moved quickly. Fires were lit early, and even the animals sensed something wrong. Rylan stood on a rooftop, scanning the tree line beyond the fields. Colleen stood beside him, a bandage wrapped around her ribs from the fight with Kara. But her eyes were clear, and her bond mark faintly glowed in the dark. Below them, the village elder stepped out into the square. He held up the wooden threat that had been thrown at their gates the day before. Every villager watched as the old man spoke. The Empire has sent its warning, he said, but we do not bow to slavers no matter what they call themselves. But we don't have weapons, someone shouted. We have a bonded one now, the elder said, pointing at Rylan, and that changes everything. Rylan sighed. He never wanted to lead anything. But now, every eye looked to him like he was their only hope. That night, the winds grew colder. At first, it was small things, missing tools, scattered footprints near the edge of the village, odd smells in the air. But then came the sound. Low, wet, snarling. Rylan heard it first from the barn where he was sharpening blades. He stepped outside, his body tense. The fog was thicker now, crawling across the ground like it was alive. Then he saw them, eyes glowing red in the dark. Creatures. Incoming, he shouted. Colleen ran to him holding a small horn. She blew into it and the sharp cry echoed through the hills. Villagers rushed to their defense points, shaking with fear. These weren't just animals. They were Grolks, mutated beasts bred for war. Rylan had seen them once during the final raids of the war. They tore through steel walls like they were paper, and now someone had sent them here. 3 Grolks charged the main gate, snapping trees as they came. Rylan met them head-on, with a spear in one hand and a short blade in the other. The first beast lunged, jaws wide. Rylan rolled under it and drove the blade into its soft underbelly. Blood sprayed across the field. The second beast roared and turned toward the children huddled behind a fence. Colleen! Rylan shouted. She was already moving. With nothing but a farming hook, she stood between the children and the monster. Her knees shook, but she didn't run. The beast leapt. Rylan's heart stopped. And then, Kara appeared, smashing into the Grolk's side with a heavy hammer. The impact threw the creature to the ground. She didn't stop. She kept swinging until it stopped moving. Thought you might need help. Kara grinned, breathing hard. We need everyone, Colleen said. By now, fires burned across the field. The village was in chaos. 2 more Grolks had climbed over the back fence and were tearing through the grain storages. Rylan ran through smoke and ash, calling out orders, guiding the villagers to safe zones, slashing through vines and beasts alike. But then, he heard a scream. He turned sharply. It wasn't from fear. It was from Colleen. He ran faster than he ever had before. She was pinned under a fallen roof beam, blood on her face. One of the Grolks stood above her, drool dripping from its jaws. Rylan didn't think. He moved. He threw himself onto the beast, driving his knife deep into its neck. The creature bucked, tossing him off, but he got back up and slashed again. Over and over until it stopped moving. He dropped beside Colleen, lifting the beam off her with a grunt. "Stay with me," he whispered. "I'm fine," she said, barely conscious. "But you glowed." He looked down. The bond mark on his arm wasn't just glowing. It was burning. Lines of red light pulsed from it, crawling across his chest and neck. Colleen's mark did the same. Villagers watched in awe. The elder stepped forward and dropped to one knee. "The old prophecy," he whispered. "The human fire returns." Then came a loud howl. Not a grok, a ship. A massive, low-flying Imperial dropship broke through the clouds, casting a shadow across the burning fields. Its side bore the mark of the Crimson Empire, a blood-red symbol of a beast swallowing a star. A voice echoed from its speakers. "Give us the human, or we burn everything." The villagers backed away. The fire crackled. The wind went still. Rylan stepped forward, blood on his arms, dirt on his face, eyes full of rage. "Tell your master," he shouted at the sky. "I'm not theirs. I'm not anyone's." And behind him, Colleen stood up, even with her wounds. "You want him?" she screamed. "Then face all of us." The bond between them flared. Not as man and woman, but as two souls tied by purpose. The ship hovered for a moment, then turned away. For now. But the war had begun, and Rylan knew. It wasn't just his strength they feared. It was the fire they had awakened. The elders demand his child. The village was quiet the next morning, too quiet. After the battle with the Gralks and the warning from the Empire's ship, something had changed. The air felt heavier. The villagers spoke in whispers, glancing often toward Rylan's tent. Inside, Colleen lay on a straw mat, her skin pale from blood loss. Rylan sat beside her, gently placing a wet cloth on her forehead. Her eyes fluttered open. "Did we survive?" she asked. "We did," Rylan replied. "Thanks to you." She tried to sit up but winced. Rylan placed a hand on her shoulder. "Easy. You're safe." Outside, the village elder gathered the council. The fires burned low. The people looked tired and afraid. The elder raised his hand and said in a calm, deep voice, "The bond is sealed. The fire has chosen. Now the time has come for the next step." Villagers looked around in confusion. Some nodded. Others hesitated. "We must protect our future," the elder continued. "We must ask the bonded pair to complete the union. The child must be born." Gasps filled the air. In the tent, Rylan stepped outside to stretch. He heard every word. His heart dropped. They weren't just asking for help anymore. They wanted his child. Colleen sat up slowly, hearing it too. "They want us to," she whispered. "Yeah," Rylan said. "And they're not asking." He didn't know how to feel. Colleen had asked him in the beginning, but she had asked with respect. Not like this. Not as a demand. Not as a duty. Later that day, the elder approached him. "We owe you our lives, human," he said. "But the bond is not finished. A child must be made. The blood must continue." Rylan crossed his arms. "And what if we're not ready?" The elder looked at him without blinking. "Then everything we've done here means nothing. The Empire will return. Your strength is not enough. But your child could be something new. Something powerful. Something unstoppable." Those words stayed in Rylan's mind. Unstoppable. He wasn't sure if they meant it as hope, or as a weapon. That night he sat by the fire with Colleen. "They want the child now," he said quietly. Colleen stared into the flames. "I know. But I don't want it that way." "What do you mean?" "I don't want you to feel forced. I don't want to be a duty to you. I wanted a bond, not a burden." Rylan was silent. He looked at the stars, then at her. "I never thought someone would want a child from me." I've always been the weapon, not the builder. Colleen smiled weakly. But now you have the chance to build something. Before he could answer, a shout rang out from the edge of the village. Smoke. Flames. Chaos. They're back. Someone screamed, but it wasn't the Empire. It was a group of rebels, alien raiders in scavenged armor, hired by the Empire to capture Rylan alive. They wanted his blood, his genes, and his bond. This time, they didn't use beasts. They used traps, gas and fire. Kira, already guarding the north side, called out, "They're not here to kill. They want him alive." Rylan grabbed his weapons and rushed out. Colleen tried to follow, but he stopped her. "You stay here. Protect the heart." As the village burned, Rylan cut through the attackers with cold precision. He was faster, stronger than any of them, but he was outnumbered. One of the rebels threw a net over him. Another hit him with a shock baton. He fell to his knees. "We got him," the leader shouted. But then, a spear flew through the air and struck the rebel in the chest. Colleen stood at the gate, blood still on her bandages, rage in her eyes. "You don't take him," she said. The bond flared again, not just on Rylan's arm, but across Colleen's chest, glowing like fire. The light spread through the village, waking up something deep in the land. The earth shook. The winds howled. And then, every villager, young and old, picked up tools and weapons. The village rose. Together they fought back. They didn't fight for a warrior. They fought for a future. The rebels fled, broken and afraid. After the battle, Rylan was taken to the healer's tent. His chest was burned, his back bruised, but he was alive. Colleen sat beside him. "Still think you're just a weapon?" she whispered. He smiled through the pain. "I think I'm something more now." The next day the elders called them again. But this time it was different. There were no demands, only respect. They offered Rylan and Colleen a space, a choice, and time. "The bond is real," the elder said. "It cannot be forced. But if you choose to give life, we will protect it with everything we have." Colleen reached for Rylan's hand, and for the first time, he didn't feel used. He felt wanted. He looked into her eyes and nodded once. "We'll do it our way," he said. And in that moment something new sparked inside Colleen's body. A warmth, a fire. The bond had accepted the choice. And now something ancient stirred within her. The fire in her womb. The winds were calm, but the air was thick with change. 2 weeks had passed since the attack by the rebels. The village was slowly healing. Houses were rebuilt, fences repaired, and the fields tended once more. But even with peace returning, Rylan felt uneasy. Colleen had been acting strange. It began with simple things. She slept longer than usual, woke up sweating even in the cool nights, and her appetite grew twice as large. Her bond mark glowed softly, even when she rested. Villagers noticed, whispering of old stories, stories of chosen mothers and children, of light. "Is this normal?" Rylan asked the healer one morning. The old woman only shook her head. "No one's carried a bonded child in generations. No one knows what normal is anymore." Colleen smiled when Rylan asked her how she felt. "Strange," she admitted. "Like there's a sun inside me, growing." But her smile faded that night. The fire in the village square had just been lit when she collapsed in front of everyone. Her body shook. Her hands burned, and the bond mark on her belly exploded into red light. Screams followed. Villagers rushed forward, but the healer stopped them. "Don't touch her. The bond is active. Her body is changing." Rylan pushed through the crowd and dropped to his knees beside her. "Colleen!" he cried, grabbing her hand. She looked up at him with pain in her eyes. "Something's wrong. Or right. I don't know." Her skin felt hot, like fire trapped under her skin. The healer leaned close, touching Colleen's forehead. "Her blood is mixing too fast. Her body wasn't made to carry this kind of strength." "What do we do?" Rylan shouted. The healer stared at him. "She won't survive if she stays here. We have no machines, no med pods, no tools to help. You must take her off-world. But the Empire will chase you, the elder finished, walking up slowly. But if you stay, she dies. Rylan looked around. Fear spread across the villagers' faces. But something stronger grew behind it. Loyalty. Kara stepped forward. We'll help you get her out. How? Rylan asked. An old smuggler's ship crashed years ago beyond the hills. We rebuilt it in secret. Never thought we'd need it. Show me. That night, under the cover of darkness, Kara led Rylan through a hidden path deep in the woods. They reached a small clearing where a metal ship lay buried in vines and moss. Its edges were rusted, but its engines hummed faintly. It flies? Rylan asked. Barely, Kara replied. But it'll get you off-world. Rylan returned at dawn. Colleen lay weak in the healer's hut, whispering things in her sleep. Words from a language Rylan didn't understand. She's speaking old tongue, the healer said. Her body is remembering things older than bloodlines. Then we leave now, Rylan said. The villagers gathered around them, many with tears in their eyes. One by one they placed offerings inside the ship. Food, cloth, herbs, not because they expected them to return, but because they hoped. As the ship's door closed, Rylan held Colleen's hand. Her eyes opened for a moment. You'll stay with me? Always, he said. The ship shook as it lifted off. Dust flew in every direction. The villagers raised, their arms watching the last of their fire rise into the sky. But the moment they broke through the clouds, an alarm beeped. Incoming signal, the ship's system said in a flat voice. Empire scout detected. Rylan's eyes narrowed. He turned the ship sharply. A small Imperial cruiser appeared in their path, red lights flashing. Identify yourself, the enemy voice demanded. Rylan didn't answer. He turned off the signal and slammed the controls. You want her? He muttered. You'll have to kill me first. He weaved between clouds and asteroid fragments, trying to lose them. Behind him, Colleen moaned. The red light from her bond was growing, pulsing through her entire body. Her stomach was glowing now. Literally, glowing. Rylan couldn't believe it. Something inside her was alive in a way nothing should be. The child wasn't normal. And neither was Colleen anymore. Prepare for contact, the ship warned. Missile locked. Rylan pulled the ship upward, but the cruiser fired. The blast hit near the back thrusters. Alarms blared. Life support failing, the system said. Rylan looked down at Colleen. She was breathing fast, her skin glowing like heated stone. She was dying and something was being born. Hold on, he whispered. He found a nearby moon on the scanner, barely habitable, full of caves and dust. We're landing, he said. The ship crashed hard into the rocky ground, skidding across dirt and sand. Everything went black for a few seconds. When Rylan woke, the ship was on fire, the air full of smoke. Colleen lay in the pod, and next to her, a soft cry. He moved closer. In the glowing light, a small form lay beside Colleen, a newborn. The child had golden skin like hers, but hair like his. Its eyes opened slowly. They were glowing red and blue at once, and in that moment, Rylan knew. This was the beginning of something no galaxy had ever seen. A child worth galaxies third person, simple English. Long, powerful, emotional, and suspenseful. The cave was cold and dark, lit only by the flicker of emergency lights from the broken escape pod. Dust floated through the air like falling ash. Wind howled outside across the barren moon, but inside, everything was still. Rylan sat beside Colleen, who lay unconscious on a thin blanket. Her skin had cooled but still shimmered faintly. Her breath was weak but steady. The glow of the bond mark on her stomach had faded, but beside her, wrapped in cloth and silence, was something more alive than anything Rylan had ever seen. The child. It did not cry like a normal infant. It stared. Wide eyes, glowing faint blue and red, blinked slowly as they focused on Rylan's face. It reached out, not blindly, but with purpose. Its fingers wrapped around his thumb with surprising strength. Rylan held his breath. His chest ached, not from the crash or from wounds, but from something deeper. He had never imagined being a father. Not in this galaxy. Not like this. And now, this small life, half human, half alien, was the most important thing in the universe. He held the child gently, laying it on Colleen's chest. She stirred. Her eyes opened slowly. Her lips moved. Did it work? Rylan smiled softly. Yeah. It worked. You did it. A tear slipped from her eye as she looked down at the baby. Her hand trembled as she touched its cheek. We made fire, she whispered. They rested there for a while. Time became slow. Outside, the Empire searched, but the dust storms cloaked them. For 3 days they hid, fed the child, and waited. But on the 4th day, the scanners came alive. A fleet, not one ship. An entire Imperial fleet hovered above the moon, blocking every path to escape. They found us, Rylan muttered. He stood, pulling on his gear. There was no ship now, no allies, no backup, just a broken man, a fading mother, and a newborn child worth more than any treasure. They didn't want to kill the child. They wanted to control it, and Rylan would not let that happen. A voice boomed across the cave, coming from a small speaker. In the ship remains. This is Commander Luthen of the Crimson Empire. Surrender the child. You will not be harmed. Rylan turned off the speaker. He walked to the cave entrance, staring up at the red glow in the sky. Part of him knew there was no winning this fight. But he also knew something else. If he gave up now, everything Colleen had bled for, everything they had built together, would be turned into a weapon, and their child would never be free. He looked back. Colleen was sitting up now, weak but calm. She held the child close. You don't have to die, she whispered. I know, Rylan said, but I have to stand. He took a flare from his bag and climbed to the highest rock above the cave. The dust blew around him like a ghost. His coat whipped behind him. The Empire's ships hovered like vultures. He lit the flare and held it. High a signal, not of surrender but of challenge. A moment passed, then another. Then, a sound broke through the clouds. Not Imperial engines. A different tone. A deep roar, familiar and wild. Kira's voice came through the receiver. You thought we'd let you fight alone? A dozen small ships broke through the clouds. Village. Defenders, outlaws, old rebels, anyone who had heard the whispers of the child born of bond. They came not for war, but for a chance to protect what might heal the galaxy. The battle was short, but brutal. The Empire didn't expect resistance. They didn't expect farmers and hunters and traders to stand against them, and they never expected what came next. As the Imperial flagship targeted the cave, the child cried out. A wave of light burst from the ground. Not fire, not sound. Life. The child's cry reached every ship, every mind. Pilots dropped their controls. Soldiers lowered their weapons. For one moment, one perfect second, everyone felt something they had forgotten, hope, and then the Empire fled, not in fear of weapons, but in fear of what they couldn't control. Hours later, the moon was quiet again. Kira walked into the cave with dirt on her face and blood on her hands. She looked at the child now asleep on Colleen's chest. I saw it, she whispered. I felt it. Rylan nodded. He's not just a child. Colleen smiled. He's the first spark. What will you name him? Kira asked. They looked at each other. Then Colleen whispered, Solace. Light, Rylan translated.